What's up, everybody? This is Ricardo Rodriguez.
And Matthew Messick.
And this is
the Profits Over Wages podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Profits Over Wages podcast, where we do weekly interviews with highly successful business owners and entrepreneurs. We discuss life, business, and entrepreneurship to bring forward the lessons learned from success and failure, and most importantly, have fun while doing it. On episode 47 of the podcast, we sit down with David Ubeda. He is the EVP of the #1 loss mitigation firm in the U.S., Premier Capital Solutions. He is also the founder of MRDEU Global Media, a digital marketing and coaching firm committed to helping small business owners scale their business to 6 figures plus per month. Lastly, he's an author of 2 books, speaker, and host of the popular Life Hacks for Entrepreneurs podcast. Enjoy the show. We hadn't reconnected in a long time, and I actually messaged you on Facebook last week, and you said that you told me that you were just thinking about messaging me or calling me like literally the day right before.
24 hours. Yeah.
That was like some crazy, like, what do they call that?
Law of attraction.
Law of attraction.
Law of attraction, sure.
Because, I've been seeing like what you've been doing with the podcast and, what you've been doing over the last few years. I've seen you run for Mr. Illinois or something like that.
Oh, the bodybuilding show? Oh, yeah, it was a natural. That was one, it's not like on my bucket list. Not that I'm dying anytime soon, God willing. But it was always a goal of mine. I've always been a fan of bodybuilding. Yeah. Since I was a kid. I've always been curious as to how people can transform their bodies to look the same way as I do, considering that I'm not in the shape that they're in, but then watching them with discipline and eating. So then I took on, in 2014, I took on a prep, which lasted 20 weeks. And in that prep, I went from 216 to 183 competition. And yes, I donned the Speedo. Man panties.
Did you put in the oil or whatever the hell they put on?
Yes, the tanning, the oil. I mean, honestly, the prep. And prior to that, the reason why I finally went and did it was because in 2010, I went to my first Mr. Olympia contest in Las Vegas. And I was at the Gold's Gym that Sunday after the show. And as soon as I walked in, I saw 20 of the most beautiful fitness models in my life. I was like, holy crap. What is going on here? And it wound up being a photo session where all of the Olympians that just competed were going to go and do their muscle and fitness and magazine shoots. And then in walks Mr. Olympia at the time, Jay Cutler. That was his last win.
Not Jay Cutler, the football player, but Jay Cutler, the bodybuilder.
No. Jay Cutler, the
Jay
football
Cutler's not in shape at all.
No.
It's funny because I remember him saying, just kind of a sidebar, but one time they were interviewing him and he was like, the best thing about being a quarterback is you don't actually have to be in shape. And I'm like, dude, what?
Oh, man, if I would have heard that back then.
It was the craziest shit ever.
That's
I'm
horrible.
Like, dude, come on, man.
No that tells you his work ethic, right?
Right, for real. But anyways,
that explains his slouch and his demeanor on the sideline.
Totally. Exactly. That's why they had those Smoking Jay like memes all over the internet. Just him with like Photoshop cigarettes. But yeah, so is that when you decided to do that?
Yeah, man, that was the inciting incident, like they say in the movies. That was that one moment, that one spark that was like, you know what? I've never seen a guy that big before in my life. He literally looked like a gorilla.
You're talking about his body, right?
Yeah, his body. He looked like a gorilla, man. I mean, he was like 5'9", 270 pounds, shredded. Jesus. And he looked like a cartoon. Like, I could not believe that people could actually be this big. It was ridiculous. And I had the chance to meet The Rock a couple of years ago when he was really just starting out. I met him at an IHOP. He was driving.
That's so random.
Met a random dude. I was like, man, this dude is huge. And I looked, and he had the big old chops on his face. And he was huge back then. 6'4", 6'4", just under 300 pounds back then. And Jay Cutler make The Rock look small. He was massive, like the size of a refrigerator. So after that, I met him, very nice guy, and some of the other Olympians. I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So for 3 years, 3.5 years, I trained religiously. And then in 2014, I did my prep for the actual show. And that was 20 weeks, 7 meals a day, 2 gallons of water per day. My last 10 weeks, all I ate in terms of protein was fish because I wasn't losing the weight fast enough. And not that I needed to get skinny, but just to lose body fat. Because I was still gaining the muscle, the size, but the body fat piece, because think about what you're trying to do. You're losing body fat while increasing body mass. It's almost counterintuitive, but it's done all the time. So, and the most difficult part at that time was wearing the man panties, dude. That was, let me tell you, dude.
You were in shape. It's like almost doesn't matter.
I know, that's what but even then I was just so embarrassed, but you do it, you do your thing, and I'm very proud. I took
all the
second.
dudes up there are on Speedos. So
no, I know, man, but just for me personally, because I'm, kind of shy that way in that regard.
Right.
But then so to my surprise, I took second, which was a
shit.
total surprise. I couldn't believe it. The guy who won that contest went on and became a national competitor, champion at the national level.
Oh shit!
So it was just a great experience all the way around. I faced one of my biggest fears, and it felt good. Putting that Speedo on.
That was like your biggest fear.
I was petrified, man, petrified at that moment. And when I did it, it dawned on me, that really wasn't that bad. And so that's been my approach for a lot of the other things that I have been afraid of.
That's crazy.
Conquer your fears.
Yeah, it's like once you face it, you realize. Was that it? Yeah, that's all.
The fear is the fear itself.
I think we might have touched on this, or our last guest might have touched on this. I don't know if you're familiar with like Stoic philosophy.
No.
It's Stoic. I like Stoic philosophy because it's like a very practical style of philosophy or type of philosophy versus like the mental masturbation that other philosophy are. And they have this exercise where you write. Like you have like you want to do something and then you write all the outcomes, like am I gonna die? No. Is this gonna happen? No. Is this gonna happen? No. Is this gonna happen? No. Then why am I so afraid of that? It's just like to just set you straight on like the actual outcomes that might happen when you go in and try to achieve a goal. So it's like a very practical exercise that you can do, which
I like
which you did it already. I thought it was super interesting. But anyway, we're like 7 minutes in, but for like those who are not familiar with who you are, if you can kind of just give us like a quick, like, who is David Ubeda, like what you do, like what are you doing right now?
Yeah, sure, man. And again, thanks guys for having me on. I am the executive vice president for Premier Cap Solutions. We are the #1 loss mitigation firm in the country. We're in about 30 cities. And what does that mean? Loss mitigation means we help banks lose less money, and we help homeowners get a fresh start. So homeowners who are struggling with a foreclosure, their note has gone defaulted. There are some parties, not just the homeowner, that are struggling. Because every time there's a mortgage that's funded, it wasn't necessarily the bank that funded it, although the bank serves more as the broker. But there is a lender, there's an investor, I should say, behind that note that actually cut the check. Mm-hmm. So let's say it's, Charlie XYZ company that, as the investor, told Chase Bank, hey, because Chase sent them a portfolio, hey, do you want to invest in this deal? This is your return. They said yes. Charlie XYZ pays Chase. That particular deal is closed, and then the homeowner is the one that's paying the note every month. But unfortunately, shit happens, and sometimes we fall behind on our bills. It could be, a divorce situation, could be an illness situation, could be a loss of income situation. A number of things can happen, and then that particular note goes unpaid. Sometimes, a month, 2 months, 3 months, in some cases a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then a short sale. As short sale negotiators, what we do is we step in and we renegotiate that bad debt. Okay, and so we are helping the bank, in essence, the investor behind the note, because he'll recoup some of those funds. The homeowner gets a fresh start, and what that means is that we'll renegotiate that bad debt, reintroduce that property in the marketplace at a discount. The homeowner then, we call it a fresh start, has an opportunity to, #1, get the bad debt off their shoulders. #2, we'll go ahead and petition the investor for a move-out allowance of some type to help them with the new, with the new apartment or wherever, their next move is.
Yeah.
And then the third piece is we help them with credit restoration. We'll refer them to one of our vetted credit restoration partners. So the homeowner is given an opportunity to literally get a fresh start.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the investor behind the note is happy. They got some of their money back. And because of the bank laws, right, the banks have to freeze 7 times as much as any of their assets, whether they're performing or not. So if you got a $100,000 note, banks have to freeze $700,000 on that non-performing asset or that home at that time. And what happens is the bank then, how do they make money?
Lending money.
Yeah, lending.
Yeah.
So then the bank's happy. So everyone is happy all the way around.
Are short sales still that common? Because, you hear it, right? We're a decade since the crash happened and people went into foreclosure and all that. And you hear that the economy is doing good. Employment rates are as low as they've ever been, or at least that's what they say on TV. Are short sales and foreclosures still common? Like, how many are you guys actually working on, and what is it that, how many are there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm asked this often because even people in the game, you guys are brokers, right?
Yeah. We're both licensed, yeah.
Yeah, and even you guys in the game probably don't hear that there's a lot of foreclosure activity. But this week alone, I went ahead and did a training for some of our brokers. And I did it live and went online and did, there's a specific website that I talked to brokers to visit. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it was the Chicago Law Bulletin.
Okay.
And then we went ahead and showed them that in one day, there was 158 brand new foreclosures. Just in the Law Bulletin, it was one county.
Just in Cook County?
In one day.
Yeah, but Cook County is huge.
Yes, but think about that, 30 days, 60 days, 120 days.
Yeah, that's a few thousand, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So are foreclosures still very, evident? Yeah, it's still relevant. The problem is that banks and the media don't really talk about it much because of, mass hysteria. They try to control the emotion. They manage morale.
Yeah.
That's essentially what they do. But the reality is, if you were to go to any county right now, it doesn't matter what city in the U.S., if you look up foreclosures, you're going to see hundreds, sometimes thousands of foreclosures because it's all public record. And these are people who are struggling. These are notes. These are opportunities, literally. And that's why banks contact us. That's why brokers, attorneys, investors contact us. Hey, I have this homeowner that's, losing their home, and we'd like to pick it up for whatever, reason. And that's when we step in and help out all the parties involved.
On the investment side, one of the things that has stopped us from wanting to do short sales is the fact that they take so damn long. Like, we got an offer accepted on that one on Hood, right, in Edgewater, 2 months ago? Or
4 months ago.
4 months ago. You see, I've lost track of time because it's been so long.
Yeah.
And it's just the broker that we have, because we didn't find it. Another broker found it for us. I just see his emails like every other week.
Just planting seeds.
How are we doing? How's the short sale doing? Nothing. How's the short sale doing? Nothing. How's the short sale doing? Nothing. And that's like the one thing that has stopped us from wanting to really focus on those. Mm-hmm. Like, how fast are you guys to get these like approved and sold and all that?
All right. So we don't do the sale. We do just the approval.
Right.
And so that's where the broker steps in. And to speak to why things are delayed so often is because in many cases, the attorneys, well, obviously, they want your business, and they'll milk.
They get paid by the hour.
Right, they get paid by the hour, right? And there's a lot of great attorneys. We have great attorneys on our team, but all we do is short sale negotiation. Mm-hmm. And so that being the case, it takes about 30 days, in some cases less. I've seen it done in 2 weeks. Depends on the situation. Now, I've got to preface that by saying that if you've got a deal that has multiple liens on it, like this year, it was a first. And we saw a particular property have 15 liens on it.
No way.
Yep, 15 liens.
Like mechanical liens?
That's what I said. How on earth? I've seen 3, I've seen 5, but when I saw 15, my mouth dropped, and I'm like, you want us to do what?
Were they all like small amounts? Or
small amounts, credit cards, people, I mean, and again, this is not, to throw the owner under the bus. What it is simply to describe, hey, shit happens. And
you gotta do what you gotta do, man. You gotta, if you got kids, you gotta.
Yeah, in this case, it was an illness. Yeah, it was an illness that impacted this particular homeowner.
But I want to know how that conversation goes, where it's like, hey, I have some equity in my property. Would you like to sign this promissory note in 15th lien position? Like, oh yeah, that seems super secure. Like,
yeah, when I saw that, matter of fact, I was telling Alex, our CEO, when we both saw that, we actually had to revise some of our SOP in house because. There was no way.
What's SOP? Sorry,
a standard operating procedure. Okay. For us to go ahead and actually deliver in the time frame that we are known for, there was no way that we were going to do 15 liens. Not because you have to think about it. One lien is a short sale. So you got 15 short sales going on because we got to contact those investors.
I see what you're saying.
And then, hey, are you willing to take 50 cents on a dollar or nothing? Is one of the two. So ultimately, this is where our negotiation strategies come in, right?
Did you end up taking the actual?
Well, here's the thing. We don't like saying no to situations, but we've learned through this situation that we're going to have to start doing so. And so we've just revamped some of our internal strategies, which means if someone's coming with 15 liens, you'll have to, as the homeowner, you'll have to contact those lien holders, because what we found was that working on this particular deal, some of those lien holders didn't even exist anymore. They weren't even in business.
Oh, shit.
And so who do we find that took over that note or whatever happened to that business?
Or who bought it?
Right. So then we become a detective agency at that point. And, we're processing thousands of files every month. We close over 3,200 a month on average. There's no way that we're going to take all that time and put, we've got 350 employees. We're not going to take one of our processors and spend the rest of their time, because they get paid too per file that closes. And I'm like, you know what? We have to go ahead and revamp our approach on that. So if it's like up to 3 liens, we'll do it. But anything after that, the homeowner at that point is going to have to step up and find another strategy to contact every one of those lien holders. And all we would need really is just their contact information and et cetera, and some paperwork.
In what aspect do you work with brokers? Like, how do brokers benefit from working with you guys?
Yeah, so we have preferred brokers throughout the country. And again, we're in 30 cities. And so our rockstar brokers, first and foremost, they understand that short sales is a whole different ballgame by itself, right? But their lane, what they're usually the best at, is shaking hands and being visible in their particular community.
Right.
And so essentially we become their loss mitigation department. We're kind of like the bald-headed stepchild in the back, rolling the cigars, rolling the leaves, right? That's what we do. We're in the back. And we don't even advertise as a business. All of our business for the past 10 years has been pure referral.
Yes.
Pure referral. And so how does that happen? And you get into 30 cities. How the hell does that happen? Well, because we execute.
Right.
So what brokers, they'll come to us and say, hey, listen, they start advertising in their community as a fresh start broker. And what that means is that any community residents that are currently underwater, which are hundreds, thousands, and there's a lot of shame there. There's a lot of anxiety that a homeowner is going through. I've been through that myself prior to, and that's how I discovered short sales, because my house during the 08 crash was in foreclosure. And little did I know, fast forward, 10 years, that I'd be helping thousands of homeowners get out of that situation, which is pretty cool. But brokers will then make that as an option or as a service known to their community in terms of short sales as an option, because most people don't know what that is. And then they can generate leads. We show them how to do that, like going to their counties, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then as far as a marketing pitch, we explain to them how to present the whole fresh start concept. Mm-hmm. And then when the files come in, we do all the work. They keep 100% of their commissions. We get paid via the lender.
Right. But how does a broker become one of your partners or preferred brokers, or how does somebody? So we have a broker right now that wants to do that. How do they reach out to you guys and become part of that?
Yeah, it's a conversation. They can reach out to me, and then what we'll do is have a dialogue surrounding what that looks like for them, because we prefer working with brokers that have an understanding of what short sales are.
Right.
Matter of fact, I had a great conversation earlier this week with a rockstar broker in the community who is very familiar and used to do several short sales. And so we're looking at a partnership there to be able to serve their community, help that business continue to grow. And so brokers who are really interested in learning that aspect of the game haven't gone back. I've never had one of our brokers say, damn, I hate the fact that you get this approved in 30 days or less, Right. I've never had a broker say, you know what, you just closed 10 of our deals this month. I hate you for that. I've never had a broker say that to us.
Why are you so quick? I want to get paid in 5 months. Yeah. Counting that money later on.
Yeah, right. And it's just that at first they just don't believe it. It's like, how is that even possible? Why? It's just the key word, the secret for us is just relationships.
Yeah.
Period. We golf with the decision makers at the banks, literally. I mean, we hang out with them. Whenever there's a situation that arises, it literally is just a phone call. literally, we can get things approved that quickly.
And then they go and they tell all their friends how fast they close, and they go, "Who's that?" And then you get referred, and you get more business.
30 cities later, man. I mean, it's amazing to see how this is all evolved on its own. I've been in this role for a little over 2 years, and prior to that, I was sitting on their board, the Premier Housing Foundation. And when I got this position, I realized, I'm in a position where I can serve a lot of homeowners because I understand firsthand the stress.
Yeah.
The anxiety, the shame, the overwhelm, hey, I'm about to get kicked on this, live on the street, that kind of thing. It's no joke. And so to be in this position, it really is humbling to be able to serve homeowners that way.
And it's also something where that comes up and they feel all that shame and everything, and they kind of stick their head in the sand and they ignore it because they don't know what to do and they're afraid of the outcome.
And that just creates more anxiety.
Yeah, it's a loop, man.
It's just an anxiety loop.
It compounds in your head. And when you're going through stuff, the last thing you want to do is tell people, hey, you know what, I couldn't make my payments. Ego's involved in there. I don't want my people.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you something. There was this one particular client that we had this year, which was a first of its kind, but kind of described to me how really emotionally gripping it is when you get in, when you find yourself with that, possibility that you're going to be sleeping on the street, right? Yeah. You're going to lose your home. Where are my kids going to stay or whatnot? And this one particular homeowner took forever to get the paperwork in. And the reason was I didn't want my neighbors to know.
Oh, shit.
But how are they going to know that you sent the paperwork in?
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes
they're going to find out eventually when you move out.
Yeah, at some point they're going to find out, or the sheriff comes, or the for sale, whatever the case is. The thing is, when sometimes we get trapped in that whole mental game, that loop, and we start playing the story in our head. What are my neighbors going to think? There are people who are so invested in that, and it runs their life.
It's also fear of the unknown as well.
Oh, for sure.
Like a lot of procrastination is really just fear of not knowing what's going to happen. But it's like you don't know what's going to happen if you don't do it. You can't just have that conversation within yourself and validating your own bad thoughts, instead of actually getting things done.
And that's why our brokers, when I have that conversation with them, I tell them up front, listen, you're working with a population that many people, meaning, homeowners are in foreclosure, that many people don't have the patience to deal with in some cases. But I've had some extraordinary conversations, have met some amazing homeowners who have just, had some really difficult situations come up in their life. And our brokers love the role that they're in now simply because they're making more of an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all, as a broker, I'm sure sales are important and, paying the bills and paying your staff, all that. Yeah, that's important. Equally satisfying for me now is knowing that these homeowners are given this fresh start. And I mean, years later, I still get notes, hey, thank you so much for saving, this and this and that. And I'm like, all we did was, process your note or whatnot, but they always look at you as the hero per se.
Let's go. I don't want to switch. Let's switch something.
Really quick. Let's go on the flip side with the investor. So you said, you negotiate the short sale and then you go to sell at a discount. So as someone who wants to buy the house, either say as a rental property or do a fix and flip, if it's dilapidated, how do those people, do you work with them? How do they find
investors?
You? Yeah. How does that process work?
Yeah, so I want to be clear that what we do basically is negotiate the note. So as far as reselling the property, that's where the broker steps in. Okay. So if an investor were to come to us, which they do often, hey, we've got these 10 or these, these blocks of homes, or let's say it's just one in this case, that we want. And so what we'll do is order the appraisal. And let's say the appraisal comes in at $250,000, but the property needs $50,000 worth of work, and it's evident. And so what we'll do is the bank will say, hey, we want $250,000. And then the investor will say, okay, great. We will go ahead and agree to those terms. However, in your contract, you can always say, hey, depending on a survey or an appraisal, that kind of thing, right? When you go in and do your inspections, and let's say the place is a shithole, right? Take the pictures. Get your appraisals done by construction companies, and let's say it winds up being over $50,000, but in this case, just for numbers' sake, it's $50,000. You bring that back, and what is the investor going to say at that point? Well, no, we're still going to sell it for $250,000. no, you've got a leg to stand on, and so you renegotiate that, and then in that case, everybody wins because the investor behind that note is losing money every day with that non-performing asset, and so they want to sell it, and they'll play hardball. Why? Because they're trying to recoup something. But if you've got a legitimate case, what we have discovered is that they are more than likely ready to negotiate, and they want that property off their books.
No, of course.
Yeah. Good question.
Let's go back to the start because I haven't seen you in.
It's been a minute.
It's been a long time. So we first met at this real estate investing network marketing company a while back, and you know what's funny? This when I met you, this moment has sort of stuck like with me in my head. You probably don't even remember, but when we're in that network marketing company, I was at a point where I was actually generating a lot of leads, and then you approached me and you're like, "Can you show me how you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's meet at a Starbucks." And then we met at a Starbucks somewhere in Schaumburg, I think. And then I was telling you like how I was doing things, and everything that I was telling you, you would do it like on the spot. And then like I had the same conversation with a lot of people, right? Like 3 or 4 other people. And then I would tell them what I was doing, and they would just write it down and not do anything. What stuck with me was that when I was telling you what I was doing, you were putting it into action immediately. And that has literally stuck with me since that day, and I have no idea why.
Probably because it's uncommon.
I have no idea why. I still think about that sometimes. I'm like,
that's
fuck.
Awesome.
And ever since I was like, when I want to put something into action, I want to do it right away. And I have to do it right away because I know for a fact that if I put it off, I'm never going to do it.
Well, there's a psychology behind that. And I wish I could say like I'm a genius or whatnot, which is not true. My kids will be the first one to tell you he's not. And that's fine. There's a psychology behind that. We have a 3 to 5 second window. Psychologically to either do a fight or flight response. That's how we're wired. So whenever there's something that we fear, psychologically, what will we do? We'll check out,
right?
Because we'll go ahead and just do something else. But if we're engaged for a moment, if we can intentionally engage by either writing it down or doing something physical, then our brain, we just increase the likelihood of our brain retaining that information. And retention is one thing, recall is another, right? So for me personally, knowing that my attention span is pretty short, that's the secret.
Most of the thing what stuck with me was just the action, like just taking action on the spot, just doing it right away. Because I told him like, oh, I have this website, and then I do this, and it does automatically a bunch of stuff, and you're boom signed up on the spot. Yeah, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. That's the way to do it, man. You've got to. There's only one way to find out.
And I feel like that was the last time I saw you.
Oh no, dude! I've been keeping up, watching
except
your posts
on Facebook.
I've seen your stuff.
Bodybuilding a few times here and there.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
Check out that Speedo.
No.
Yeah, I burned that thing, man. I burned that thing.
I don't think you actually posted a picture on Facebook with the Speedo on.
Man, dude, I was so embarrassed.
What color Speedos did you wear?
It was blue.
Oh,
it was blue. I remember it, man. I'm like, oh, Father.
But no, what I wanted to go back to was let's go back to like where you started, because I know you do other different things, and I didn't even know you did short sales, and the biggest reason why I wanted to reach out to you was because you do consulting and you have your own podcast, but I want to go even way back. Maybe like go back to like when we first met. Like, what has your transition been since then? Kind of like your story.
Yeah. So when we met, I was flipping as part of the real estate network that we met at. Who I still have a great mentor that I still stay in touch with there, and he was that introduced me to real estate investing.
Yeah.
Because at that time, a couple of years prior to that, in 2008, 2009. I was going through some really difficult life changes. So at the time I had lost my position. I was teaching at the University of Phoenix at the time.
And what did you teach?
I was teaching gen ed courses, and then also got into, so like the very first class at the UOP campus and the very last class, and then several gen eds in between.
Okay. So is that your background, like teaching or professor? Or?
I'm halfway done with a doctorate in education, and so my master's was in human services admin. And so I could teach gen eds, and then was going to start doing the more meatier classes, but that's when kind of the shit hit the fan, and during that time my work suffered because I was going through some stuff. You know, I was losing. I was going through divorce at the time. I was, eventually losing my position. You know, going through foreclosure. I mean, this is when my health was suffering. There was a number of things.
Just a lot of shit.
There was a lot happening at that time, and I look back and I'm like, how the hell, did I get through that? And I tell people all the time, man, it was my faith, man. If it wasn't for my Heavenly Father guiding me, there's no way that I'd be here today. But that's what led me to the networking group, and then from there, I was doing real estate investments and so on and so forth. And then there was a one deal in particular that because in real estate you can make a truckload of money, but you can also lose your shirt.
Yeah.
And your pants.
And your Speedos.
And you wind up being a Speedo, right? And so let me tell you, man, there was one particular situation. I won't go into the details of it, but it was a situation that dried up my business and put me in a situation where I was sleeping in my car, 34 cents to my name at that point. And I had a choice. I could either man up or sit there and, just do nothing. And as you recall, I'm that guy that likes to, hey, let's do stuff. That's never changed.
Yeah.
So I took action, and one of the things that stood out for us as a business was our ability to lead gen, and that's what led me to creating MRDEU Global Media, which is
MRDEU. You say that really fast.
Yeah, MRDEU Global Media, and that's our digital marketing and coaching firm.
Okay.
So it's a smaller company designed specifically to work with small business owners. And the reason I chose small business owners because I've noticed that small business owners don't really have a lot of support. They'll throw money at you, but they won't show you how to generate business. There's some things that they just won't teach you. And if you're not like a big, conglomerate of a business, you're really just unknown. But there's over 28 million small businesses in the U.S. alone.
You have
right
no
now.
support group a lot of the time. It's just either just you working the 18 hours a day, or you and your wife, or you and your kid, and that's about it, because your family just will never understand it.
Yeah, and even the networking groups that are out there, it's all about competition.
Right.
Like they'll see you, they won't share the strategies with you because, hey, you'll steal my business. I mean, it's all it's a lot of paranoia out there, right? When the reality is that the more you give, at least that's what we've discovered, the more we give, the more comes back to us, to the place where it's like so much that we have to actually, delegate to our other partners, hey, listen, take care of this client or whatnot. So the digital marketing and coaching firm that I started about 5 years ago has steadily grown. This is our best year. We've got 7 employees right now.
Nice.
And we're doing 6 figures a month. And so that's cool and all, but what I love the most is the free time that the business has been able to create for us.
What do you guys do with small business? In what capacity do you help small business owners?
Yeah, so most small business owners, when they come to us, they're complaining about 3 things: time, money, and freedom. That's the first thing. And
that's like everything.
Yeah, I know, right? But here's the thing: as a small business owner, we jump in. Why? Because we want more time with our family or friends. We want more freedom to be able to pick up and leave or enjoy life, and then we want more money to be able to fuel those endeavors. And when I first got into the small business space, that all went out the window because I was working the 18-hour days.
I mean, for example, like when you own a restaurant, you were there 20 hours.
Man. You're there all the time.
If somebody calls in, you have to fill in for them.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I've ever owned a restaurant, but my parents have.
Oh,
and I know friends who have. So I know like you have to go in.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of the time, it's 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
A day, sorry. A week. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be nice, right?
Wasn't also like, you've read the EMyth where people, they can't delegate to other people. They have to do everything. Yeah. It's if you grow your business bigger, then you can have employees to get that freedom. Is that kind of some of the things that you teach?
See, it depends, man, because some people have an interpretation that the bigger the business, the more is required of them.
It's opposite, right?
Well, see, that's the thing. When we work with small business owners, and this is what I believe makes us unique. Instead of just designing, a kick-ass digital marketing tools and driving leads, I personally won't even do that until we get your headspace right first. because it doesn't make any sense. Our secret sauce is getting your psychology and strategy in alignment.
So what's the biggest thing that most small businesses owners have that is like blocking that? And then what are you trying to get them to open up to and, learn to free their mindset?
This might sound funny, but that's a great question. But one of the biggest blockages is when you're a small business owner and you're starting out and you hold on to those $5 because you want to be able to be resourceful, and you hold on to those $5.
Bootstrapping.
You're bootstrapping. And then when you start seeing success, you start seeing more revenue, you start seeing more clients, they still carry that bootstrapping mentality.
Yeah.
And it keeps them from actually growing their business even further.
So a failure to invest in themselves and just being cheap, basically.
What it is that they're operating in fear at that point.
Yeah.
It's fear, right?
It's like, all things are good. I don't want them to go bad. If I spend all my money, I'm not going to have any money to pay my employees or pay.
Right. They need that security.
Right. So we tell people all the time, look, man, before money can stop being an issue for you, it has to stop being an issue for you. It's just this plain, simple truth. And so if you want your business to grow at any level, money can no longer have that emotional attachment. You can't have that emotional attachment or dependency or the interpretation to think that this is the thing that's going to get me over to the next level, when the reality is what gets you to the next level is this.
Yeah.
It's your hands. It's your ability to execute. That's what'll get you. It's not the money. Money is just a derivative.
It's a tool.
Yeah, it's a result of what you've done, of the value that you're bringing. So our approach is we understand that 80% of the success of our clients is all between their ears. And then 20% is the actual digital marketing tools. And when those things are not in alignment, then they're always struggling. They're always struggling. And what will happen is they might see, months where it peaks, they'll make that 20 grand, 100 grand, or whatever, that big amount is. But then they'll always, their GPS, their internal GPS is going to bring them right back to wherever they started. Does that make sense?
Weird.
No, I totally get it. Because I'm the opposite. As soon as we get money, I just invest it right back in the business. It's gone.
Yeah, and you know what? Every business, every business is different, right? Every CEO, every business owner is different. But we all have a block of some sort that keeps us from going to that next step.
We all do. We had somebody on the podcast, I think it's Stefan, we had on the podcast. He was saying that if you're making $1 million a year, it's typically all within you. Like, they're all personal problems. Once you're over that $1 million a year, it's more about systems and your actual company. He said something like that. I can't remember. Totally paraphrasing. I'm sure I butchered it, but
also someone that's told me that I was talking to that was pretty successful. He had over like a $300 million company in revenue in his career for like 10 years. He said, if you're making $100,000 a year, like, how many employees do you have? And in my mind, I was thinking 0, and everyone else threw out all these numbers, and he's like 0 because you're doing it all yourself. Right. If you're at like doing 300,000 in like revenue, you might have like an assistant or like a VA or someone in Fiverr, and then as you go, also if as you go up, I think he said at the next level, you have some employees, but you hire them out of loyalty, like friends or family, as opposed to like somebody who's actually like an expert, like that has the skill set to do the job. So as you level up, you got to do those things differently to get to the higher like revenue marks. But that was pretty insightful.
Yeah, everyone that's on my team is smarter than I am in their field.
Yeah, you want them to be.
Yeah, they make me look like I'm a third grader, right? PCS, for example, to just discuss the whole need for structure and adding rock stars to your team. We've got over 350 employees. We processed thousands of files. Last year, 2017, we did 350 million. There's no way that we could have done that on our own. There's no way. We're in 30 cities with rockstar brokers, so we're a team. We're a team effort.
Yeah.
There's no way you can grow your business on your own by yourself.
There's no way. There's no such thing as self-made, as people like to say. I hate that saying. There's no such thing. There's no way. But anyway, let's go back
to... The fact that you were born says you weren't self-made.
Exactly. Let's go back to working with small business owners. What are some of the other hurdles that you see when you're working with small business owners that's stopping them from growing?
Oh, man, one of the most common is belief. Belief in themselves, that they're actually worthy. That's one of the biggest struggles that the business owners that we meet.
How do you overcome that?
Well, first you got to identify how that interpretation came to be. You know, and it's usually some type of an experience that we've had either as children or whatnot, and it creates at that moment a limitation, which becomes an interpretation. So interpretations are limitations, but they can be rewritten.
Right.
And we have that opportunity, and that's why we coach our clients to help them rewrite those interpretations which have become a limitation. And you don't delete it, you just replace it.
Yeah. So this started as a digital marketing company for lead generation, and it turned into a psychiatry and
like Soul Sunday, right? Super Soul Sunday. Yeah, you know what's fascinating about that is that it started out as a digital marketing company, but as someone who genuinely cares about people and I really want to make a difference.
Yeah.
I really had to take some time, and it took me a couple of years to really refine it to what it is today, where we have our 8-week program and lifetime access, that kind of thing. But it's really getting a grasp of understanding the psychology and then the strategy, getting them into alignment. And once they are in alignment, you will have more fun than you will ever think possible.
What does the 8-week program consist of?
So the 8-week program, what I love about just the first 3 weeks, which is one of my favorites of the 8-week training. The first is where we actually walk a client through, a small business owner through refining, identifying who their ideal client is. Most of the time, we have small business owners, and you ask them, so who's your ideal client? Or just the term, I get to pick my client? Yes.
Then why did you start the business?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, you get to pick your client. You can pick who you work with. And most people, I know when I first started my business, hey, if you had a Pulse and a credit card, we were working together, right? I didn't care because I was just trying to make money at that time.
As long as you have a credit card, I don't care if you're alive.
If you have a Pulse, right?
So you meet someone who has 15 liens and you're like, I'm not working.
Yeah, exactly, right? But do you have a credit card? So it's like, that's one of the biggest obstacles in running a business is thinking that you are that everyone needs what you have to offer, and that's not necessarily true. The other piece of the puzzle is when I work with coaches, that type of personality wants to save the world, and they don't want to leave anyone behind. The problem with that is you weren't put on this earth to save the world. I personally believe you were put on this earth to help one. Who is that one?
What's your avatar?
Yeah, what's that one? Who is your avatar? Who is your ideal client? And so for me, I now find myself attracting ideal clients to me now without even saying a word.
Well, because it's all in your branding and marketing, right? Because if you know who your ideal client is and you make that brand and you market to them, they're going to be attracted to that, and you're going to get the types of people that you want.
Yeah, it's just like if you're looking for a partner, right? And you say, well, I'll just take anything that walks in the door. Will you really take anything that walks in the door? Really? You'll just take anything?
Been there, done that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But it's like, why not get some clarity with who your ideal partner is?
And that's why I don't want to make this about ourselves, but that's why our business has taken off so much over the last 10 months.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when companies find that clarity,
my stress levels has gone down 1,000%.
Thank you, man. And this is not a paid sponsorship, right? You know what I'm saying? You're telling us you're keeping it real.
I mean, think about it, man. Like how was it without Jay and Greg? Like as far as like the construction and all that, like it's just stressful.
Yeah, it was between like being a business and not being a business. So it wasn't scalable at all.
Yeah. So it's all about partners. Not only picking your perfect partner, but making it strategic.
Yeah.
Right. Like
everything's got to be intentional.
Rather have 25% of something really big than half of or
100% of nothing.
Crap, or or what it is. Yeah. Whatever the saying is.
Yeah. So once you find who your ideal client is, not only will you be able to have great conversations with them and actually serve them and help them get those outcomes that they're looking for, solve a specific problem for them, or actually, which is step 2. So the week 1, we talk about who is your ideal client, who do you vibe with, who do you tend to attract into your life. Number 2, what is a specific problem that your ideal client wants solved, so much so that they'll pay you for it. It's not about your problem; it's what problem do they have.
Right.
And then the third thing is the third week is crafting an offer, a product that will speak to the problem and engage your ideal client because you're speaking their language. That's just the first 3 weeks. Okay. So once we lay that groundwork, then we can get into the other meatier stuff. But the first 3 weeks alone, our clients who go through the program walk around with such clarity.
It's a mindset shift, man.
It's a huge shift for them. And then everywhere they go, every time they have a conversation, I mean, I was just telling you prior to the show, this random situation where every week business owners will reach out to me. Hey, I'd love to have a conversation with you and see if I could enroll in your program or whatnot, or just to serve them in some way. So I looked at it this morning and I saw that there was another business owner that did that. First thing I do in the morning is check my email, and then what happens? When I have a question on my survey that asks, how did you hear about me? And she wrote down on David's boarding pass. And so she literally wrote that down. And the funny thing is that I was reading a book by Kyle Cease. I hope I screw this up, which I've read 3 times. Great book. I highly recommend it. But apparently I left my boarding pass inside.
Oh, that's what it's called? I hope to screw this up. I thought you were about to screw this up.
No, that's the name of the book. That's the name of the book. I hope I screw this up. Kyle Cease, you got to get it. Great book.
Is it about failing and failing fast? Or
Kyle is a comedian turned coach.
Okay.
And he leverages, let me tell you something. That book was so insightful. So random, because I picked it up, going on a trip to Vegas, and I was reading it. I read it. I think I was in Lake Las Vegas at the Westin, and I read the entire book sitting at the pool because it was so engaging.
He's a comedian. He's a good writer.
Whatever it is. What I loved about the book the most was how authentic he was, man. And one of my takeaways was, if I could increase my level of authenticity by 1%, 2%, whatever that percentage is, how could that impact my life, love, and business?
Oh, yeah. It's all about being authentic, man.
That authenticity, people have very sensitive bullshit meters, so if you can go ahead and just keep it real, be honest, and that's how we serve our clients.
It makes you seem like an actual real person and not like a robot.
Absolutely, man. People got to know that you struggle too, man, that you've got some things that you're working out. Yeah. Doesn't mean that you can't be an expert in a specific field, but what it does mean is that even when I engage with my clients, it's like, hey, listen, these were my struggles when I was going through this, and this is what's currently happening in my business now as we continue to grow.
Wait, so she found your boarding pass. You left it as a bookmark?
Apparently, I left it as a bookmark in the book, and she says, because then she sent me a message on Instant Messenger, and she says, "Hey, by the way, I looked you up after I found your boarding pass, and I saw that you help small business owners. I'm a small business owner that needs help. Can we talk?" And I said, "Absolutely."
And she was your avatar because you're both reading the same book.
But see, that's the beauty of having that clarity, man. Because it's like, once you have that clarity, you will attract who you are clear about. But if you got this haze, if you're just in it just to make money or whatnot, but if you're in it to serve people, those people will come find you, man.
You know what? I actually heard that as a marketing strategy once. Like, you can go to the bookstore, take a bunch of your business cards, put them in, say, like, all the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, all the this or that, like whatever book that you really like. That's just go there, and then your clients will find you.
It's true. Let's talk about your podcast, because you also host a podcast called Life Hacks for Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
How long ago did you start it, and why?
Man, that's a great question. It's not like, I don't have anything to do, right? We're all busy, right? Yeah. We all got stuff to do. But I created the podcast because I was trying to find an outlet that was really engaging. And right now, podcasts for the past 5 years or so have been really popular.
Hot.
Very hot.
And people think like people don't listen to podcasts. And I'm like, dude, I've been listening to 3-hour podcasts. I listened to the Joe Rogan. Like, that's the first podcast I ever listened to. Like, 2012. They're like 3 hours long, and people are not gonna listen for 3 hours. That dude gets like millions of downloads.
Oh yeah.
I just think there's like a hunger for long form conversations, and you actually get an idea of what the person is like in real life. And by the time you meet them, say for you, right, you're doing life hacks for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You could just put in that you help small business owners in the podcast. By the time they meet you or they call you, they feel like they already know you.
Oh man, I get that all the time. Because of the podcast. Now, as you guys know, since you guys are rockstar podcasters also, when you first started, was that first podcast better than your future episodes?
Oh hell no!
Exactly my point.
The good thing about starting something, the only direction you could go is up.
That's right. You could only get better. You can only improve. Well, you can only improve if you study the game, right? If you want to become better.
Our intro has been the same since the first episode.
Yeah. The intro is the only thing that hasn't changed for my podcast, but the podcast itself, from formatting to content, and so
you do it on Anchor, right?
Yeah, I started on Anchor, which is a free phone app, and then we edit it off the suite, and then we do some things to it to make sure that the quality is, because we've had some hellified situations before. Dude, honest to God, truth. There was this episode, a very good friend of mine, Richie, if you're listening to this, Richie, God bless you. He plays the drums for Ariana Grande, David Foster, Bocelli. I mean,
nice.
Tori Kelly. I mean, he is one of the coolest guys that you'll ever meet. Very unassuming. You'd never guess that he does that. He's one of the most humble guys you'll ever meet. So I had him on the show, and my software that I was using at the time failed like twice.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
I'm like, Richie, do you mind if we talk one more time?
We've had to do that, and it's weird.
So embarrassing. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry, man. And so, these behind the scenes pains, growing pains that you got to go through, you got to go through them and you got to solve them so that way it doesn't, show up in future episodes. But podcasting's been fun.
Let's go back to why you started, because I really interrupted you.
No, that's cool. No, that's cool. So I started it because I really wanted to add value in that space, right? And then especially with small business owners. So our goal is to become the number one small business podcast on iTunes. That's the goal.
I mean, you got a great name, dude.
I appreciate that, man. I think what happens is the premise behind the show is we're not here to sell you anything. If anything, we understand this one concept. We don't have business problems. We have personal problems that reflect in our business. And if we can go ahead again, address that 80% of the game, the 20% is actually pretty easy. The digital marketing stuff is actually easy believe me, the most difficult work is the 80%. But it's the most rewarding. You'll find the most clarity. And that's what our show is about. So I hosted an online television show for a while. And one of the things that I was always developing in that process was learning how to have great conversations with people and pull information out of people that they themselves didn't even know, man, I forgot about that. Because we all have so much
shit all the time.
Dude, we have so much content. And then it's not till we're like in a situation where all of a sudden it comes up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We've had a guy that like, fuck, I haven't thought about that business in 15 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where can people find it? That podcast is called Life Hacks for Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Life Hacks for Entrepreneurs. You can go on it's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. It's on about 8 different platforms, Anchor as well. So
okay, we're going to move into the questions section of the podcast, where we just do a bunch of random questions that bring up a lot of different subjects about inspiration, motivation, struggles, and things like that. So whatever first comes to your mind, just say that.
Blurt it out.
And if while you're answering a question, if you think of a better answer, it's okay if you can stop and go back. I'll edit this out and edit that out.
All right, cool. What's interesting is that I'm used to asking the questions.
Yeah.
And I was just telling a good friend of mine today, it's like, dude, you got to pray for me, man, because I'm used to asking the questions. I'm going to get drilled today.
We went on a podcast recently, and it was weird to be on the other side because then you're being interviewed. So yeah,
I like hosting the podcast.
Right. Yeah, hosting is more fun
because you don't do anything. You just ask questions. It's easy. As long as you approach it from curiosity and just wanting to learn from the person. Like I read this in a book the other day. You got to approach each conversation and each encounter with another person as if you have something to learn from them, because you most likely do.
Oh yeah.
Then I just approached the podcast with the same mentality and mindset, and I fucking love doing this.
Well said, man. Totally agree.
Go, Matt.
What habits helped make you successful?
What habits made me successful? The first habit is to believe in myself. That's the first thing. Because no one else is going to do it. I firmly believe that if you don't believe in yourself, you don't give anyone else permission to believe in you. So that's the first.
If you believe in yourself, other people can see that and they'll believe in you too.
Yeah, there's a fine line between being an a-hole, like cut the music, right? But I really believe that when someone believes in themselves, their desire to want to serve people comes across.
I mean, I don't want to say it. Never mind.
What is your best hiring tip or secret?
What's that?
What is your best hiring tip or secret, since you have, 350 employees, you said?
Yeah, on PCS, and then with MRDEU Global, we have 7. The hiring tip I would give is, first and foremost, I'd like to give you guys a life hack. For this one's for business specifically.
Okay.
Freeup.com. If you haven't checked them out, FREEE, 3 E's, up.com. Nate, very good friend of mine, he owns freeup.com, and he provides vetted virtual assistants.
Nice.
In just about any field.
We need some right now.
Yeah, and he's the guy. Okay, so those of you who are business owners and are looking to grow your team, what you want to do is stay in your lane. So if you're not necessarily a great judge of character, or you've tended to fire more people than keep over the past couple of years, I would suggest turning over the reins or that responsibility to someone else. And Nate Hirsch over at freeup.com has that nailed down.
Before we move on to the next question, since you work a lot with small business owners, what would you say, or what would you advise somebody who's hiring their first employee?
Ooh, the first piece, even before contacting FreeUp, you know what I would say?
Yeah.
You've got to be clear about the role that they're going to be taking on. Because what you don't want to do is hire someone and then not have a clear set of expectations for that person to carry out. I think when I first hired and I'm speaking about this through experience, when I picked up my first team member, I wasn't necessarily clear. So I was spending money and not seeing the results. Why? Because I was so used to doing a specific task instead of just giving that person the opportunity to do it. Sometimes as an alpha, I'll just do it myself, right? Which is bullshit. That's why you get in trouble. You've got to relinquish that and stay in your lane. Every aspect of your business is not your lane. My lane is having great conversations with people and serving them, getting a better idea where they're at to get them to that next level. As far as all the admin stuff, that's why I have great people around me.
A great book for that would be one that we talk about a lot on the podcast called The EMyth by Michael Gerber, if you guys want to check it out.
What was your first business idea and what did you do with it?
Was real estate investing. Was my first legit real estate or business idea, was flipping.
What was the worst piece of advice that you ever got?
The worst piece of advice that I've ever gotten was follow your passion.
Really?
Yeah. And so you're looking at me like, say what? Yeah. Yeah, because my rebuttal is don't follow your passion, follow your gifting. That's my rebuttal.
Like what you're good at?
Yeah.
So there's this, I don't know what it's called, but I was just introduced to it and I had forgotten about it. So if you want to start a business or do whatever, something that makes money, there's it's like a Venn diagram. So you have like 3, it's like what are you good at, what are you passionate about, and then what makes money. And you want to figure out what in your life has all 3 of those. Because you can follow 1 or 2, but it's not going to turn out to be a good business.
Yeah, following your passion alone is not going to work. For example, I love pastries. I'm passionate about them. But if I continue to follow them, I won't be able to fit in my pants.
Just as an example, I follow soccer a lot. There's this Argentinian soccer player, Mascherano. He hates soccer. Like legit. He plays it. He has said in interviews that he hates playing soccer. but he's really fucking good at it. So he plays soccer and is one of the best, or was one. He's pretty old now, but has been one of the best for a long time.
So it's like, I love my paycheck, but hate doing the work.
He's literally, like, they've interviewed him. He's literally said, I don't like it. It sucks. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of injuries, a lot of bullshit, but I'm damn good at it. So that's why I do it.
I feel like Jay Cutler hated football.
Yeah, I feel like he hates everybody.
Poor guy, man. Well, you know what? He's laughing all the way to the bank, isn't he?
Yeah.
He still got paid.
And his wife is doing great on there. I was surprised to hear how many viewers her show gets every week.
Did you know that Matt's one of those viewers?
Yeah, I actually watch it because Jay Cutler's on there. And it's hilarious because he literally just doesn't give a fuck about anything, just like in real life. So then you can actually see it, but it's funny in the show because he doesn't have any responsibilities.
Yes, because apparently she's like, the bright, happy-go-lucky, and then here comes Mr. Frumpy, right? It's when it's like
a marriage. It's a weird relationship. Have you ever turned down a client, and why?
Yes, I have. I actually turned down more clients than actually take them in. And not to be a jerk about it, but there's a couple of things that we look for as far as our ideal client is concerned. Number one is, are you coachable? That's one of the key things for us. And if someone comes across already knowing everything, well, what do you need us for?
Thinking that they know everything.
Yeah. Then, what's the point? And so the other piece is we've got our ideal client works hard. They know what they need. They know that who they are today is not going to be the person 8 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever down the line. You have to evolve into that person that will be able to appreciate the new outcomes that are not in your life right now.
What living or dead person other than family members do you most admire?
I admire the troublemakers. I admire those people that they called dreamers. I think one of the best, but although it was intended as an offensive insult, was when I was told, "Man, you're such a dreamer."
Thank you.
And I said, "Thank you so much. Thank you." Because like one of my favorite commercials is that Apple commercials, those who think that they can, create a better world. I'm, improvising right now, but, often do. So I'm that one knucklehead who just is crazy enough to believe that if you, pursue something worthwhile, especially with the intention of serving the world, making it a better place, you'll definitely make some waves.
I mean, without dreamers, we wouldn't have iPhones. We wouldn't have fucking anything.
But okay, so you just opened a can of worms. So it's like the irony was the person who told me that wasn't doing shit. You know what I'm saying? So
that's why, because they're like, I don't have any dreams.
Exactly. So I'm like, every time someone has something negative, because I'm a huge fan of feedback loops. We're either having feedback coming towards us or passing us by with the intention of guiding our steps, right? So that being said, when you hear that type of feedback from someone or from some source, always question it, man. It's like, wait a minute, but what are you doing in your life? I mean, seriously.
They're imposing the reality onto other people.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously not happy camper.
What is it? Mystery Loves Company.
Yeah, for sure.
If you had one piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would it be?
There'd be two pieces of advice. Number one, mentorship, especially in a business context, mentorship and marketing. Those would be the first two pieces. Focus on getting a mentor, someone who is where you want to be. And then as far as marketing is concerned, again, before you invest in your money in digital marketing tools, etc., you've got to nail down the three things we talked about in the podcast.
What is one thing that you find to be true that most people would disagree with?
One thing that I find to be true that most people would disagree with?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I've never been asked that. Well, let's come back to that one. Yeah, because I'm going to have to marinate on that one. What's one thing?
Dreamers, man.
Oh, I got the answer. I don't believe in hard work.
What do you believe in?
I'll give you a perfect example.
Work.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
What I believe is when I hear that term, dude, you got to work hard. You got to work your ass off and get ahead. And so there was this great speaker who was giving this amazing speech, and this young man heard that message, and the next morning at 5 a.m. gets up and gets a shovel and starts working hard in his backyard by digging ditches. And so after 18 hours worth of work, hard work in his mind, right, he said, well, I'm not any richer than when I first started, right? So that's an example. It's not necessarily hard work. I believe it's intentional. I believe it's clearly identified steps. And I really believe that the work isn't external. The hard work, or the most important work you can do, rather, is internal. And then externally, we'll see the reflection.
What do you wish that you knew before you got started?
In business?
Yeah. Or if you got the chance to start over, what would you do differently?
Mentorship and marketing. That'd be the first two things. I would invest all my money in mentorship, in someone who's doing what I'm doing, but just at a faster clip or a higher clip, making a larger impact. And then as far as before I start marketing, making sure that my headspace is right.
All right, last one. Why do you do what you do? What gets you through the tough times?
Man, when I hear, well, my main why is my family. It's my three kids, my daughter and my twin boys. That's my why. That's why I get up and I do my thing. But the most rewarding thing next to that would be watching small business owners and hearing from them, and they're thanking you because of your relationship, because you were able to help them with their whole process.
Actually, forgot one. What do you have a favorite failure? Is there one that set you up for future success?
That's so funny you mentioned that, because in my book, 5 Keys to Help You through life's man. It's been 4 years now,
bro. It's your own book, man.
Yeah, I know, man. Good Lord, 5 Keys to Help You through 5 Keys to Help You through life's holding patterns. Man, it was featured on WGN. God forgive me. So, anyways, one of the 5 keys that I share is called intentional failure. So, failure has become one of my absolute favorite strategies, and I practice it intentionally. And that came as a result of prepping for the bodybuilding contest. Because in bodybuilding, the number one thing or objective for every workout is failure. Taking that muscle to the place where it is absolutely obliterated. It's
shaking.
Yeah, it's shaking. It's actually scientifically it's broken down. And so when you feel like that pump, that's actually blood rushing nutrients to the muscle to repair the muscle. And so in bodybuilding, it is intentional. That's why people hire trainers, because they want to take that person to their failure zone every single session. And the reason why they do that is because, again, the muscle then, once broken down, has to take on a new identity, takes on a new shape, new strength. So it's the same concept with intentional failure, which I teach in the book. Putting yourself in a position to fail intentionally has been one of the greatest, most important strategies that I've implemented for me, life, love, and business, and then one that I share with my clients.
Is there one, because that's what the question was, is there one that stands out as the one that has set you up for a future success?
Yeah, there was a partnership that back in the day in my real estate investment business that went sour and led to me sleeping in my car with 34 cents to my name, right? Because it just, the shit really hit the fan. But I don't blame him. For me, the failure was not vetting or taking the necessary steps I needed to ensure that particular partnership was solid. Okay. So that was one thing. Not that I could have easily wound up hating people and stuff like that, which I did for a moment. Keeping it, being real. But at the same time, I realized, hey, hold on a second. What was my role in that? What was my contribution? What area could I refine further to ensure that that situation doesn't duplicate itself?
Okay. Awesome. Where can people find you?
DavidUbeda.com, UBEDA.com for the coaching side. And then for short sales, PremierCapitalSolutions.com. And you can email me direct at either on the coaching side, if you're a small business owner, David@DavidUbeda.com, or on the PCS side, if you're a broker interested in becoming one of our preferred brokers, you can go to David.Ubeda@PremierCapSolutions.com.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Glad we're reconnected.
Man, thanks, guys.
Thanks for doing this. Till next time, guys. And that's it for another episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. One last thing before you head off though. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us your thoughts on iTunes. It would really mean a lot and help us reach more people. You can also find us on Facebook at Profits Over Wages Podcast, as well as on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.